I never imagined my ex-fiancé would discover my deepest secret, let alone make me wear it down the aisle behind her. It started with a box. A simple cardboard box. Taped shut. Hidden at the very back of my closet like some guilty memory I hoped would never resurface. I hadn't opened it in months. Maybe even a year. But that didn't matter anymore, because she found it. Claire and I had been broken up for nearly 6 months when she texted out of the blue. "Hey, I still have a few of your things. Mind if I drop them off this weekend?" I remember staring at the message longer than I should have. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. We hadn't spoken since the engagement ended. We weren't exactly on good terms, but we weren't enemies either. So I said yes. Maybe part of me wanted to see her. Or maybe I was just lonely. Saturday afternoon, she stepped into my apartment like she still owned the place. Her energy was confident, polished, colder than I remembered. Her blonde hair was curled into soft waves, and she wore this peach-colored dress that hugged her like it was sewn for her body. She looked like everything I wasn't. She handed me a small bag of old books and said, "I left a few boxes in your closet, right? Mind if I grab them?" And that's when it happened. I had forgotten. That box was still there. My heart froze. I should have said no. I should have blocked the doorway. But I hesitated for just a second. Long enough. Claire's heels clicked across the wooden floor toward my bedroom like fate sealing a door. I followed her in a panic, mumbling something about grabbing it myself, but she was already pulling open the closet. She bent down, moved a few shoeboxes, and then stopped. Her hand landed on it. The plain cardboard box. "What's this?" she asked casually, turning it toward her. My stomach tightened. I watched as she peeled the tape back slowly, as if she somehow already knew. "Claire, seriously, just leave it." I stepped forward, but she shook her head and opened it fully. She didn't scream. She didn't laugh. She didn't even say a word for a moment. Just stared. Inside were carefully folded dresses, some still with tags, stockings, a pair of nude pumps, a brunette wig, lipstick, eyeshadow, perfume, everything arranged just so. My secret life in one humiliating box. Claire finally looked up at me, and there was something unreadable in her eyes. She wasn't shocked, not exactly. More intrigued. "This isn't mine," she said quietly, holding up the pink satin dress I'd once tried on in front of the mirror after midnight. I couldn't speak. My throat was dry, like someone had stuffed it full of shame. My knees felt weak. "Do you want to explain this, Adam?" Her voice was soft now, but not kind. Not cruel either. Just curious. I shook my head, cheeks burning. "It's nothing. Just stuff." She raised an eyebrow. "Nothing." I looked away. I could barely stand to meet her gaze. Claire set the dress down, but she didn't close the box. Instead, she sat on the edge of my bed, legs crossed, fingers tracing the hem of the fabric like she was inspecting it for quality. "So," she said, eyes locked on mine, "was this your little secret the whole time we were engaged?" I didn't answer. I didn't know how. Silence hung between us. Thick, charged, exposing. She looked at the wig next, then the heels, then back to me. "You wore these." I nodded slowly. I felt like a child being caught sneaking candy, except it was my identity I'd hidden, and the person who found it was the one who once promised to marry me. Claire tilted her head, a slow smirk growing on her lips. And then she said, "You know, I'm getting married next month." My breath caught. "To Jacob. You remember him, don't you?" I nodded barely. She stood, walked over, and placed the pink dress gently in my hands. "Funny," she whispered. "I still need one more bridesmaid." I couldn't breathe. She had said it so casually, so smoothly, that I almost didn't register the weight of it. I still need one more bridesmaid. The dress was still in my hands, soft and cool, almost trembling from how tightly I was holding it. I stared at her. "You're joking." Claire's smirk softened, not out of kindness, but something else. Calculated curiosity. Do I look like I'm joking? I wanted to drop the dress, stuff everything back in the box, and bury it again where no one would ever see it, especially not her. But I didn't. I just stood there, rooted in place, the weight of her stare pressing into me. "I didn't plan for you to see that," I mumbled. My voice sounded distant, almost like it belonged to someone else. She crossed her arms and leaned against the doorframe. How long? I swallowed hard. Since I was 15. Maybe earlier. I don't know. Claire didn't interrupt. She let the silence stretch, as if giving me space to drown in my own words. I used to steal my sister's clothes, I whispered. Just to try them on. Not for anything dirty. Just to see. To feel something different. Softer. My eyes dropped to the floor. I couldn't look at her, not while saying this. When we got engaged, I tried to quit. I really did. I packed it all up. Tried to forget. Be normal. Claire's voice came gently. And did that work? I hesitated. No. There it was. That awful heavy truth. No excuses left. It wasn't about not loving you, I added quickly, finally lifting my gaze. I did. I did. There's this part of me I've never understood. Something that doesn't go away. Claire didn't respond right away. She walked back over to the bed and sat again, this time looking more thoughtful than amused. She held the wig in her hands, letting her fingers comb through it like she was brushing someone's real hair. You always seemed a little distant, she said finally. Like there was something you were hiding. I thought maybe you were cheating on me. My heart twisted. No. Never. I know that now, she said softly. I just didn't expect this. I could feel my chest tightening again, but for a different reason. It wasn't just shame anymore. It was this aching fear that she'd weaponize it. Or worse, that she'd never speak to me again. I'm sorry, I said, barely a whisper. She looked at me. Her eyes were hard to read now, not angry, not cold, just curious. Analytical, almost. You kept this all bottled up the entire time we were together, she asked. I nodded. I was terrified. Of what you'd think. Of what anyone would think. Claire tilted her head. What do you feel when you wear it? The dress, the makeup, the whole thing. I hesitated, then slowly sat on the edge of the bed across from her, hands gripping the pink satin still in my lap. I feel like I disappear, I said. Not in a bad way. It's like the pressure goes quiet. The constant hum in my head just fades. And I'm not Adam for a while. I don't have to be. I can breathe. Claire studied me for a long moment. You don't want to be a woman, do you? I don't know, I answered honestly. Maybe just not a man. Or maybe just something softer. Gentler. She gave a small nod, her expression unreadable. I always thought you had the prettiest hands, she said suddenly. Delicate. Not like other guys. I blinked, surprised. You noticed? I notice everything, she said with a faint smile. There was a long pause before she added, You know, I was furious when we broke up. I hated you. Thought you weren't emotionally available. Thought you were cold. I wasn't trying to be, I said quietly. I know. Now I see it wasn't about me. You were trying to hold yourself together. Pretending to be someone. I looked down, ashamed. And then she leaned forward and gently touched my hand. Adam, no. Not Adam. Who are you when you wear this? Her touch was warm. Not mocking. Not cruel. I don't know, I said. I never named her. It was always just something private. Something I did alone. Claire smiled, but there was something sharper beneath it. Then maybe it's time we gave her a name. That hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't mockery. It felt like an opening. I don't deserve that, I whispered. She raised an eyebrow. What you deserve, sweetheart, is to stop hiding. My breath caught. That word, sweetheart, echoed in my chest like a bell. She stood up again, walked to the doorway, and turned back with one last glance. Think about it. The offer stands. My wedding. One more bridesmaid spot. The dress might need altering, but I think you fit into it beautifully. And with that, she left me alone in my room, trembling, heart racing, dress in hand, and a name forming quietly in the back of my throat that I wasn't quite ready to say aloud. Not yet, but soon. I didn't leave my apartment for 2 days. The box stayed open on the bed, a quiet invitation, or maybe a haunting memory. I wasn't sure which. Every time I walked past it, I felt my heart twist. The fabric seemed more alive than before, whispering to me in a voice that sounded suspiciously like my own. And then there was Claire. She didn't message, didn't call, didn't follow up, and somehow that made it worse, like she'd thrown a stone into my calm little pond and left me to drown in the ripples. But on the third day, there was a knock at my door. I opened it and found her standing there, a garment bag in one hand and a shopping bag in the other. She looked radiant, not just pretty, but powerful, purposeful, like someone with a mission. "Good," she said before I could even speak. "You're home. Let me in." I stepped aside, too stunned to argue. Claire walked in like she owned the place again, hung the garment bag on my closet door, and set the other bag on the bed. She turned to face me with a sly smile. "You didn't think I was serious?" she asked. I opened my mouth to respond, but she held up a hand. "Before you say no, I'm not here to force you into anything. But I am here to offer you something I don't think you've ever had permission." That word hit me square in the chest. "Permission to be soft," she said, walking toward me. "To explore. To not be him for a little while." I felt like I was dreaming. "What's in the bag?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Something for her," she replied, touching the box with the tip of her finger. "You said you never gave her a name. That's fine, but she deserves something new, don't you think?" She opened the bag and began laying items on the bed. Soft pink lingerie, nothing explicit, just delicate and lacy, like something a bridesmaid might wear under a gown. A pale lilac dress with flutter sleeves and a satin ribbon around the waist. A new wig, lighter than mine, almost a strawberry blonde, and a makeup palette that shimmered like watercolors. "I had a feeling about your size," Claire said with a grin. "I used to dress you in a way. I think I still can." I was stunned. "You bought all this for me?" "For her," she corrected. I didn't know what to say. The part of me that wanted to run was silenced by the part that had waited years, decades, really, for someone to see me. Really see me. Claire turned to me, and her voice softened. "Will you let me help?" I nodded. That one motion felt heavier than anything I'd ever done. Heavier than proposing. Heavier than leaving. Heavier than hiding. Claire smiled and took my hand. "Then let's begin." She guided me to sit at the edge of the bed and pulled out the makeup. "We'll start simple," she said, brushing her fingers along my jaw. No heavy contour, just soft touches. Her fingers moved with expert grace. She applied a bit of primer, then foundation that somehow matched perfectly. When she brushed blush across my cheeks, I felt a warmth bloom there that had nothing to do with the pigment. "Your lashes are already long," she said with quiet appreciation. "You're lucky. Just a little mascara there." I stared at my reflection in the handheld mirror she offered. I still looked like me, but blurred. Softer. Like the edges had been carefully sanded down. Then came the wig. She lifted it with care, almost reverently, and placed it gently over my head. She adjusted the straps, brushed out a few curls, and then smiled. "There," she said. "She's emerging." I swallowed hard. My throat felt thick. Claire stepped back and held the dress up. "Shall we?" I hesitated. I was in a t-shirt and old jeans, my default armor. Slowly, almost mechanically, I stood and began undressing. When I was down to my boxers, I froze. Claire saw the hesitation and didn't look away. "It's okay," she said. "I won't judge. I've seen every inch of you, remember." That made me laugh, just barely. She turned slightly, giving me a moment of privacy without abandoning me. I slipped into the lingerie, first, soft, delicate, unfamiliar in its gentleness. Then the dress. She zipped it up behind me, her hands careful, deliberate. The fabric hugged me like a secret I'd finally stopped fighting. She turned me toward the mirror. And there she was. Me, but not. A version I had only ever seen in dreams and late-night glimpses. Her lips were a soft rose, her cheeks flushed, her eyes wide and nervous and alive. I didn't know her name, but I wanted to. Claire stepped beside me and smiled. "She's beautiful," she whispered. "Do you see it?" I nodded slowly. "I think I do." We sat on the bed, my skirt folding neatly around my thighs. I was hyper-aware of every sensation, the way the fabric clung, the brush of air on my legs, the weight of the wig, the faint scent of Claire's perfume lingering on the dress. "How do you feel?" she asked. I took a moment before answering. "Like I'm finally breathing." Claire reached over and took my hand again, her fingers gently threading through mine. "There's more," she said. "If you want to go deeper. Posture, voice, walking. I could teach you." I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I felt the corners of my lips pull into something real. I want that. She smiled wider. Good girl. That made me blush. You'll need a name eventually, she added. You can't just be a bridesmaid with no name. The word bridesmaid sent a little flutter through my stomach. Excitement and fear. I'll think about it, I whispered. Take your time. She's waited this long, Claire said, brushing a lock of hair behind my ear. She can wait a little longer. But in that moment, sitting on the edge of the bed, in that soft dress, her voice calling me I knew one thing. She wasn't going back in the box. Not this time. I didn't take the dress off for hours. After Claire left that evening, with a soft kiss on my cheek and the words, "Keep practicing, sweetheart," I just sat in front of the mirror, watching her, me, the girl who had always been hidden away, denied, buried beneath layers of fear. Everything felt different. My breathing, the way I sat. The silence in the apartment wasn't heavy anymore. It was full of her. And it stayed that way. Claire came back the next day. And the next. Always with something new. A pair of earrings, a lipstick shade, a padded bra, a silky robe. Every visit became a lesson, and every lesson left me a little more exposed. You're not standing like her, she'd say, pressing her fingers into the small of my back, guiding me into a posture that forced softness. She's graceful, feminine. Keep your chin up, shoulders back. Yes, just like that. Or, try again. Say it like you're her. We practiced speaking in higher tones, breathing through the chest instead of the diaphragm, softening the edges of my words. I felt ridiculous at first, but when she praised me, when she said things like, "That's it," she's starting to bloom, I wanted more. Claire had this way of taking over without asking. She'd sit me down and braid my hair extensions while humming. She'd correct how I walked in heels, with hands on my hips and firm instructions. It was gentle, playful, but never optional. It was always her rhythm I followed. I didn't notice how quickly things shifted until the day she handed me a small velvet box. "What's this?" I asked, already half-dressed in one of her old satin slips. "Try it on," she said. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a charm that simply read Chloe. My heart skipped. "That's her name," she said softly. "You don't have to use it if you're not ready. But you flinch every time I call you Adam. And when I said good girl, you practically melted." She was right. I took the necklace in my shaking hands and fastened it around my neck. Claire stood behind me, her fingers brushing my shoulders. "Say it," she whispered. "Chloe." And there it was, like a lock clicking into place. But with that name came something else, something deeper, heavier. A shift I couldn't fully grasp yet. Underscore, 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 underscore. Over the next week, everything blurred. I wasn't just trying on femininity anymore. I was living in it. Claire gave me a schedule. Wake up, moisturize, practice voice for 10 minutes, wear something pretty, even if you're not leaving the apartment. And I did. I wasn't just doing this for me anymore. I was doing it for her, for the approval in her eyes, for the little smirks when I got something right, for the way she said my pretty girl, like it was a gift I hadn't earned yet, but might if I was good enough. She even changed the way she messaged me. "Good morning, Chloe. Pink or blue today? Send me a selfie. I want to see how she's coming along. Heels today. Don't argue. I want to see her walk." Every message made my heart skip. Every instruction felt like a test. And then it changed again. Claire came over one evening with a garment bag and an envelope. She tossed it onto my bed and sat like she owned the room, legs crossed, skirt perfectly pressed. "What's this?" I asked. She grinned. "Your official bridesmaid dress. Final fitting is this weekend." My stomach dropped. "I thought you were joking." She gave me a look, amused, unblinking. Do I look like someone who jokes about her wedding aesthetic? I looked down at the bag. My hands were trembling. "I can't. I'm not ready. What if someone sees me? What if they'll see a bridesmaid," she interrupted. "Beautiful, feminine, confident, especially if you start believing it." I opened the bag with shaking fingers. The dress was pale rose, floor-length, with delicate straps and a plunging neckline I wasn't sure I could pull off. The fabric was impossibly soft, shimmering like morning sunlight. I looked at her, pleading. "Claire, this is getting real." "It was always real," she said, suddenly serious. "You think this is just a game?" "No, but—" "I didn't think we'd go this far." Claire stood and stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "You said you wanted this," she said. "You said you felt free. You chose this." "I did. I do. But I don't know who I am anymore." She touched my cheek. "You're mine." The words hit me like a soft slap. Not cruel. Not romantic. Just matter of fact. "Is that what this is about?" I whispered. "Control." She didn't answer, not with words. Instead, she placed her hands on my shoulders and guided me to kneel. Not forcefully, just firmly. I looked up at her, unsure. Unsteady. Something deep inside me stirred. Fear, shame, and something else. Something darker. Warmer. Claire traced a finger along my jaw. "You're not weak, Chloe. You're just learning to surrender." My breath trembled. I felt tears prick the corners of my eyes. "I don't know who I am without you." She smiled softly. "That's okay. Let me show you." And I realized then I was no longer the one choosing. I had handed her the reins without noticing. 3 days later, she picked me up. I had barely slept the night before. The pale rose dress hung in my closet like a secret trying to come true, and the name around my neck, Chloe, was starting to feel less like a costume and more like me. When Claire knocked, I was already dressed, the long gown swaying with every nervous step, heels tight but stable, makeup soft and sweet like she taught me. I looked at my reflection before opening the door, whispering the name once under my breath. "Chloe." It sounded less like a stranger now. Claire's eyes lit up when she saw me. "Oh, you're perfect," she said, drawing out the word like a slow tease. "Absolutely bridal party ready." She brushed a loose curl behind my ear and smiled. "Ready to meet the others?" I froze. "Others?" She leaned in close. "Bridesmaids, silly." "What? You thought it would just be me." Panic twisted in my stomach. "Claire." She kissed my cheek, already guiding me by the wrist. "She'll trust me." The car ride was a blur. My thoughts raced as fast as my heart. Every bump in the road seemed to shake loose more fear. I tried to imagine who would be there, what they'd see, if they'd know. When we arrived at her friend Lila's house, I sat frozen in the passenger seat. Claire turned to me and smiled softly. "You can do this. I'm not like them." "You're prettier," she said, "and braver." Her hand found mine. "You belong here, Chloe. They'll see it." Before I could reply, the door opened, and Lila's voice rang out. "Claire." "Oh my God, you're late." Claire waved. "I brought someone." I stepped out slowly, legs shaky under the long satin dress, heels clicking softly on the driveway. Lila stared for a second, and then smiled. "You must be Chloe. Claire told us all about you." My head spun. "She did?" "Of course." Lila grinned. "You're the mystery bridesmaid." I blinked. "Mystery." She said you were her most transformational pick. That word hung in the air like a spotlight. The door opened wider, and inside were 3 more girls, all in various shades of champagne and blush pink, laughing, drinking, adjusting their dresses. The energy was electric, alive, unmistakably feminine. And I was walking straight into it. The first few minutes passed in a blur of hugs and introductions. No one laughed. No one questioned. No one saw a man in a dress. They saw her. Claire kept a close eye on me, always ready to step in, always a guiding presence. But slowly I began to settle, to breathe, to exist. Then came the next twist. Lila clapped her hands. "All right, girls. Claire has something special planned for us tonight." I looked at her sharply. "You do?" Claire grinned. "Of course. Every bridesmaid deserves a little trial run." She held up a box, slim and wrapped in pale pink ribbon. "I had these made just for the bachelorette shoot," she said. "Matching sashes and tiaras." I felt a flicker of relief. Okay, that was manageable. But then she added, "and little dares inside, just for fun." The box was passed around and everyone squealed as they pulled cards. "Do a tick-tock dance in heels." Kiss a stranger. Sing your favorite breakup song. And then it was my turn. I pulled the card. Read it. Froze. Claire leaned in. Well. The card read, be the center of attention. Let the other bridesmaids dress you however they like. No refusals allowed. My breath caught. The girls hooped and cheered before I could say a word. They were already pulling out bags of makeup, false lashes, hair accessories, glitter. I stood in the center of the room, paralyzed. Claire leaned in, her voice velvet in my ear. Remember what you said? That you wanted to disappear. I nodded shakily. She smiled. Then let her come forward. What followed was a flurry of laughter, teasing, and transformation. I became their canvas. They pinned up the wig into a soft bun, applied sparkly shadow, added fake nails, adjusted the bust of my dress for extra cleavage, and even gave me a feather boa. It should have been humiliating, but it wasn't. It was liberating. They weren't mocking me. They were playing with me, like I was just one of the girls. And then they turned on the camera. All right, bridesmaids, Lila shouted. Final shot before we hit the street. The girls posed together, pulling me into the center. I felt arms wrap around my waist, my shoulder. Someone kissed my cheek and smeared gloss on my skin, and then the flash popped. And just like that, my picture was online. Claire looked at me afterward, lips curved in a knowing smile. You did amazing. I didn't know they'd post it. She tilted her head. You didn't say no. And she was right, because somewhere between shame and surrender, I'd started to want it, to need it, the attention, the softness, the release. Later, after everyone had gone, she drove me back home in silence. I thought we were done, that she'd drop me off and say goodnight. But she followed me inside. I want you to look at yourself, she said, guiding me to the mirror. I stood in front of it, fully dressed, glitter on my collarbone, lips glossy, heels still tight on my feet. Now kneel, she whispered. My heart pounded. I hesitated, but only for a moment. Then I dropped. Not because she told me to. Because I wanted to. Claire stepped behind me, her hand resting lightly on the back of my neck. You're not him anymore, she said. You're mine. My Chloe. My perfect bridesmaid. And in that moment, kneeling in my living room, dress pulled around my legs, name shining from my collarbone, I felt something shift deep inside me. Not shame. Not fear. Belonging. Claire leaned down and whispered one last thing in my ear. You're going to walk behind me down that aisle, she said. And everyone will see what I turned you into. I didn't sleep that night. Even after Claire left, after she kissed my forehead, fixed a strand of hair, and whispered, good girl, one last time, I stayed kneeling for a long time, unsure of what would happen if I stood. The air in my apartment felt different, like something sacred had happened. I changed slowly, almost reluctantly, folding the dress with reverence and placing it over a chair, not back in the closet. I didn't want her, me, to disappear again. The next morning, Claire texted early. Final fitting is tomorrow. 10 a.m. sharp. No excuses, Chloe. There was no question of whether I'd go. The boutique was quiet, hidden down a side street with a name written in elegant cursive above the door. Inside, everything was blush pink and ivory, soft lights, velvet curtains, racks of satin gowns that shimmered like whispers. Claire was already there when I arrived. She didn't greet me with a hug, only a smile and a look that went straight through me. You're late, she said. Her finger gently pressed against my lips. Shoo, bridesmaids don't make excuses. One of the attendants approached, a tall woman with silver hair and a French twist. She looked me up and down and said with a warm smile, you must be Chloe. Claire didn't flinch. Neither did I. The woman led me to the back where the dress was waiting on a padded hanger. It was even more beautiful in this light, shimmering champagne with hand-beaded floral lace along the bodice. The kind of dress no one forgets. Claire stayed in the fitting room with me. She zipped me in slowly, fingers trailing along my spine. The fabric tightened gently around my chest, the skirt flowing like water around my legs. I stepped into the heels she brought, 3 inches, nude, elegant. When I turned toward the mirror, I didn't see Adam trying to be someone else. I saw her. Claire came up behind me, resting her chin on my shoulder. There she is, she whispered. My beautiful little pet project. My breath caught at those words. I should have protested, but I didn't. Because it was true. I was hers. You've changed everything, I murmured. She smiled. No, sweetheart. I just gave you permission. The fitting attendant returned with a clipboard. We just need your name for the label. I froze. Claire didn't. Chloe Rivers, she said calmly. The woman nodded and wrote it down without blinking. You're going to be stunning. We left in silence. Claire drove. I sat there, the name echoing in my head. Chloe Rivers. It felt too real. Too fast. Too far. When she pulled into my driveway, I expected her to leave like before. But this time, she didn't move. She just sat behind the wheel, eyes straight ahead. I want to ask you something, she said finally. I turned toward her. Okay. Claire didn't look at me when she spoke. At the wedding, when we walked down the aisle, you behind me, like every perfect bridesmaid. I want you to do something. I swallowed. What? She turned slowly now, her voice low. Controlled. I want you to carry my veil. I blinked. It's symbolic, she said, cutting me off. You'll walk behind me, holding it, serving the moment, serving me. My stomach flipped. In front of everyone. She nodded. Your legs will shake. Your heart will race. But they won't see a man in a dress. They'll see someone trained. Owned. The word sent a jolt down my spine. A mix of fear and something I couldn't admit aloud. And after? I asked. She reached over, took my hand, and laced her fingers through mine. After, she said softly, you'll kneel again. I stared at her, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. She smiled, not cruelly, not kindly, just deeply, knowingly. And then, she whispered, brushing her lips against my cheek, I'll open the door. My breath caught. What door? She stepped out of the car, heels clicking against the pavement, walked to my side, opened the door, the real one this time, and leaned in, her eyes locking on mine. The one to whatever comes next. She kissed me. Soft. Final. And then she whispered, what I say next will change everything. And with that, she walked away, leaving me breathless, dressed in silence, waiting for her words.